Weird science
is the revolution.
Ultimate X-Men #4, written by Pete Shimoko, script adaptation by Zach Davison, letters by VC's Travis Lanham. So you have the Pete Shimoko show going here, and it's going to keep being subtle with things. You end up where it's exam time. Like you even said, the way that you start out is very, very manga and anime-esque, where you have the bell ringing and you come from out there, then you go to flowers, then you go to the window, then you go inside. And yeah, May, who I love, she is, the Ferris Bueller of the book. She does not
the most
study.
Studious, yes. And this, again, a classic manga scene where it's exam time, and if you don't do well in the exams, you're going to have to go to, they don't call it summer school, but it's basically, extra classes to get your dumb ass caught up.
If she wasn't she should have went to cram school, my favorite thing that they had before that, but she didn't study at all. And you end up having Hizuka like, you didn't study? Like what? And she's like, nope, didn't study. But again, I like her. I like the character. That gives you a little flavor of it, and it plays off well together. But yeah, it's raining. That's a big thing in this, to say, oh my God, it's still raining. It's raining so much these days. It keeps raining. And then when you end up seeing Nico doing her kind of fortune-telling looking in, I like her as well. I'm sure you do. I think that she's a character.
I think she's going to be
cool.
A bigger part of this as things go forward. She's the only one who so far has used the word mutants, right? Which was the big reveal last time. This is the idea that, that's a word that exists in this universe. And what does she know? How does she know about it? There's some words about, her parents are involved with weird stuff, which, she is the equivalent of one of the Runaways characters from the 616. So parents into weird stuff is kind of part of that deal.
That is very part of the stuff. And we may even find out if they're going to go full out with that. That might be part of the council, might be part of the inner workings of things. We'll have to see.
That would certainly make sense.
That would make sense. And again, I talked to you, and I've said this before. We were talking beforehand, and you said exactly my conclusion of it. But if this would have been a Runaways book, I think people would be more accepting of it being a little quirky.
All 7 people who bought it would
exactly.
Really enjoy
That's
it.
the problem. Nobody would have bought it. And in the meantime, when I even talked about this on other things, I said that'd be fine and dandy. Nobody would buy it. It'd be canceled, but also people would be bitching. Where's the X-Men? Where's the X-Men? Unfortunately, when you get this is the version that's starting this new universe out. And we have 2 years, 18 months, you have that whole play before the maker comes back. I'm sure that we will get some of the traditional things, but we may not get the traditional X-Men in the X-Men book, just like Storm in Black Panther. We may end up having, some of them show up in the Ultimates or something like that. I think we will get a lot of them, but they may not all be in this. This is kind of a new deal and go forward, but we might end up getting multiple X-Men books even by the end, and that's nothing that would be crazy, right? But you end up where Nico, I do really like her. And this whole play of just, hey, do you think that she has powers? Is she pretending? Is she doing this? And through this, even May will keep saying, like, I wish that we could tell people we had powers. I wish that we can have powers. Really, when she's like, I don't really like the school stuff and wants to do it. So
it's kind of reminiscent of like Chainsaw Man in Volume 2, where you say, boy, I wish I could tell people that this girl I like, want to impress this girl I like. And, oh, by the way, I'm Chainsaw Man. No, can't do that.
So you have this whole play where May's like, hey, what are you doing? You want to look up? That she ends up, Hizuko's going to ride her motorcycle home. This gets a little confusing. Me and you are both pretty confused about it because she's driving, the motorcycle looks pretty cool. And then she sees a kid.
Yeah, this kind of emo boy kind of sees him, and then we cut to her at home later in the day. She's been home for a while because she's made dinner and everything.
Yeah, and she said she had to go and make dinner for her mom. So she is gone, and she's doing dinner,
so we
right?
skip a period of time, and after we skip forward, the mom said, oh, yeah, you cooked good dinner, and then she very conveniently says, oh, by the way, I heard about this guy, Amano, you remember him from middle school, was talking to his mom. He's really depressed because all of his friends just, committed that act of self-harm that we talked about last time. A lot of extreme self-harm in this book.
Yeah, it's a tough one to talk when you're going to make a video on YouTube, right? Oh, it's so crazy. And there is a lot. That's the dark deal. Now, here's the weird play. You end up, she sees this kid. She drives by, kind of stops. They look, he looks, drives by. We get to the scene of her with her mom. This seems like a natural progression later in the day. But then the panel starts creeping into flashback territory of black panels, but we know it's not.
Right.
But what is it? Because you get a
Well,
weird thing going on here.
I think that is it flashback? Because she's in a library now, and she's looking at an old yearbook, and she sees that same guy. He has the same haircut, a couple years younger, and so she does put together at this point, which I think is post the big incident we're talking about. I think this is
the weird play is I don't think she's in the library because her mom looks out from the window as she storms off. I just think that might be a room with a bookshelf. Just because, again, I know people will use this as an attack on the deal, but the art is a little bit confusing at this point because it looks like she hears this and then like storms off. Her mom's like, what did I say? And she grabs this, pretty much yearbook, looks through, but as you see the panels going in the dark.
The black background, I think maybe that's just emotional.
Maybe, and because then it fades out again. It's so weird.
Because we're used to reading manga, we're used to seeing black background means flashback, but I guess now it doesn't. I guess this is still, in the dinner time period, and this is when she puts a name to this guy, and she gets, Amano, that name that Mom said. I see this picture here with his name, and that matches up with what weird emo kid looked like in the rain outside school today. But then, it seems to be as she's looking at the yearbook, this hand comes in, and in the next panel, she's back outside dressed in her motorcycle gear in the rain, and it's the same arm on her. So where does this arm exist?
And this is what's weird. This is the thing. Her mom, now, she's had a couple problems with the motorcycle. But her mom says, you have a scratch on the motorcycle when she comes home. And you're like, but then that seems like it might happen then after that, but pulling her back in. It seems like this hand comes and pulls her back in time to the scene where she first saw this kid. And then it changes what happened going forward. But
it does look like that. I think the best explanation is just this is just showing her memory happening. I don't think an arm is really reaching through time to grab her. Although it's an X-Men book, so who the hell knows?
That's what I'm saying, because she does, it's weird. If you go by, she does drive off, and the kid never grabs her, and she goes home. But then when you go and see it again, he's grabbed her, walks away, and then she crashes. That kind of goes into the deal of him laughing. But that could have been the continuation of earlier.
This can't be the next day because the bike is already scratched up.
It seems like he grabs her back
flashback.
in. Yeah, like I said, the way I go with X-Men is some crazy power.
Either some sort of time travel or just a flashback being shown in a very strange way.
It's so weird the way, and we've had parts of this that we've said last issue. We said that the progression was odd, that there was a weird back and forth when you ended up seeing May's father and all that stuff, seemed to go jumping through the deal. But the only thing I could say is, okay, if this kid has powers and he's doing this, who knows? And maybe somebody has looked and it's like, that's this character, that, but I can't make any sort of...
No, I wasn't able to make any connection except he's being influenced by the shadow. And exactly what that means is still unclear to me. Does that mean that he is just possessed by the shadow and this kid doesn't actually know what he's doing? Or we know he's actually really sad because he thinks he knows that his friends had been, connected to Tsubasa, the first friend of Hisako who had, done bad things to himself. So this guy, Amano, thinks, hey, Hisako, she must know something about what's going on. There's something weird here. It's connected to Tsubasa. Tsubasa's connected to Hisako. So I'm going to talk to her and figure out what the hell's going on. But then after he grabs her, she tries to get the hell away. The bike crashes, and that's when the skid happens, when the scratch. And that's when we go into wild and crazy shadow attack world.
Yeah, now we have shadow attack and Tsubasa's head. You're running away again. And you go...
That's a creepy-ass panel.
Yeah, it's really creepy. The whole thing's creepy. And yeah, you see this kid and then the shadow surrounding him. And it's bad. Now, in that, you do have right away, Seiko ends up, armor comes around her and really starts to look like, I actually got pretty cool with this, even though I was worried because this kid, he might be just controlled by the shadow. But then at one point he says, hey, you want to see how Tsubasa did what he did? I'm like, oh my God, that's so awful. But she's protected by the armor, and the armor does
Yeah,
at one
and what
point
is
look like it grabs the. It's
what is
so
he
crazy, right?
throwing at her? Is it paper? Is it razor
And
blades?
it looks like a
Where do
bunch
they come
of
from?
maybe splashing. I don't know. It's so weird. Yeah, it's paper. It seems to come out of maybe the cards and the talismans of the shadow from the room we saw with glasses. I don't know. It gets confusing. But she's going to go and attack and maybe trying to like, I'm going to knock the shadow right out of you, because when the kid starts talking, then it's definitely through the shadow. But
Yeah, we
you
get
do
those
have,
same weird bubbles with the white on black and the little tendrils coming out of it. So this is, I think earlier was the boy kind of speaking from himself because he has the regular bubbles. I think he really is concerned, but at some point the shadow gets into him and takes over. And now the attack isn't really coming from him, but it's coming from the shadow. He may end up being on the team at some, well, maybe not.
maybe,
actually.
yeah, we'll see, because it's weird because, because at one point the armor actually, because he's coming, he has a knife in the arm, it grabs the knife, it looks, or at least grabs the shadow, and I thought the kid was going to be free, but he kind of gets it again, but maybe it's less than, but he says, you want to see how Tsubasa did it? Like this, and puts that deal up to his neck, and you get a slash, and you don't see, but it starts raining blood.
Yeah, we cut up to a close-up of his eye, and we see it's a really scary-looking eye, and then there's some red streaks, and I think and then the next page, we see, it was confusing because it's someone being protected by the armor, and somebody screaming out loud and being attacked by these shadows, and we only have the preview art right now, so maybe it's clearer in the final version,
and
high
you would
resolution.
guess that it would be a Seiko, but I was really hoping it was the kid. I really was hoping
right.
The armor went, and like, I'm sure people would have been, oh, you guys stupid, it has to be a Seiko. I was thinking that
we know
maybe
it doesn't work like that in the 616, but we're not in the 616.
And I was
maybe
really hoping that she was so wanting to help this kid and try to protect them that the armor ended up enveloping him, but it almost looks like instead it's just keeping the blood from going on.
Yeah, this is just
looks really
protecting
horrific.
her reaction to seeing this horrible thing that the boy just probably did to himself. And then we go forward.
This is weird because if this was something and there was a boy laying there, I think somebody would react more to
that.
Because
now the crowd show up, taking all sorts of pictures. They see a Hisako on the ground, still with the armor stuff kind of around her, not in the full-out samurai armor, but like, they talk about, there's pink goop all over her. And they take all these pictures, and if there is a boy lying there in a pool of his own internal fluids on the outside, so maybe he didn't really do it. Maybe that was part of a shadow vision that didn't really happen.
Yeah, and maybe it was something when she got brought to the deal, it wasn't really happening, and it was more the shadow influencing her to try to think it did. I don't know, because you would think they'd react. They'd be like, oh my God, like that'd be the thing. Not,
I'm going back and forth these pages, zooming around, trying to see, do we see a body on the ground in the background? But no, I don't think it's there.
And I think even May would say, because May shows up, you even have Nico, and everybody's kind of walking, looks like, home from school at this point, and they're all taking pictures with their phones. The big play here, though, even though May will say, I wish everybody would know about it, powers and things like that, she doesn't want people to know the secret. Hisako, so she ends up using her powers to
she doesn't want
things.
This kind of embarrassing situation. I mean, I think especially in Japan or whatever this place is called, the idea of this you becoming kind of famous on social media this kind of way, probably not the greatest thing. So yeah, May Storm tries to she zaps out all the cell phones,
all the cell phones,
voids all the warranties,
and also just to point out, shocks the hell out because it's raining. And there's some people, they wake up, they're like, what the heck happened? I just passed out.
You see all their hair go crazy like they're in a Van de Graaff machine.
Yeah, so they're like, oh my God, my phone, it's bricked. Oh, and it seems like that's, she would stop that because she yells, stop filming. She said, stop filming. And she ends up attacking. And so all these people are like, oh my God. And then you even see May like helping get the bike up and things like that for Hisako, but then you end up going and flipping to a girl who seems to be on a terrace type deal, maybe looking.
She was nearby. She kind of appears in the background of one of the earlier panels. And so this is a girl who was watching and videotaping or taking pictures.
It's where you get the filmed one,
And we see weird things happen. She's got these kind of big metal rings on one hand, and she seems to attract some of May's lightning, turn it into a little crunchy ball, and she eats it like a pop rock.
I said it was like a pop rock, and it even pops when she bites down on a pretty cool panel. And you said that you're pretty sure it's who.
This is going to be, I'm pretty sure, the mutant named Surge, or this universe's version of that, because Surge, she can absorb electricity, and she uses it to do her own electrical powers, to give herself super speed and some other stuff. And in the 616, she has metal gauntlets she uses to help control her power that are made by Beast. So I think these clunky rings on her hand are just the version of that. And also she has blue hair, and blue hair is also a Surge thing.
And she looks pretty cool. And again, we'll see what this means, how we go forward, because then we go back to school a few days later. Mm-hmm. Doesn't seem like many people are really that reacting to Physico, even from the thing, but she starts getting beep, 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 because as they get the test back, May
turn that off in class there.
Yeah, really. Yeah. And May failed. And she's like, make up class again. I don't have time for this. I wish I could tell people we have powers. And it's almost like that, be careful what you wish for, because then, boom, you end up, her phone starts beeping, and she looks and says, oh my God, there's a picture of me with the armor. How could this go out? It's going viral. And you end up having May said, I fried everyone's phone. This is impossible. And she says, not everyone's. This is bad. And you see the X button, too, by the way, on May again. So that's kind of a cool play. But in that, it looks like it's going out, and people are going to wonder how this power is. And this might get into the wrong upper hands. And maybe they'll have to do something.
Which makes me wonder what Surge's or this girl, if she is Surge, is trying to accomplish. Like, if she has a mutant power, you might think, well, she wants to keep everybody's mutant power quiet for her own protection, or what is she trying to accomplish by spreading this?
It is kind of the funny thing of maybe she wants it to get, like we said about Chainsaw Man, and even what May says, kind of joking. I wish I could tell. Maybe this is the way for her to be able to say, hey, I can get it out there, or maybe she has something against her. I don't know.
Is Surge going to be a villain? Is she going to eventually join whatever team is coming together? I guess, yeah, we'll have to wait and see.
It's funny, like, when you see the little bit of her from that profile, she just looks kind of like, whatever. She doesn't seem that fired up about anything, but we'll have to see. And says things just got a whole lot more fun around here when she sees that and films. And like you said, the cool thing is she films Physico, but also grabs some of the energy from May. So obviously she knows what May can do as well, and ends up, doing that. So we'll have to see. Seems just like a teen girl type thing.
It doesn't seem like this is brand new to her, right? So she's been using this power for a while. She has some equipment. She's very nonchalant about eating the electricity. So she's been doing things for a little while, and she's been kind of apparently keeping things quiet. So I wonder what her deal is.
We'll have to see. We'll have to see what it is. But again, overall, part of this review that we did, we were confused of a big part of it. So I have to put that in my score. But still liked it more than last issue. And
Agreed.
Not that it opens up everything, but you get Surge, you get this other kid. I kind of wish or hope that he could have continued. Maybe that could have been something cool. But I like the character of May. Things are getting out and about. Like I said, maybe this leads to something, big in maybe Nico's parents, like we said, the runaway deal, or it could go even higher because this world, there's no X-Men, there's no mutants, it seems, and this might be a big thing that is cool to some people, but maybe something that other people want to squash that could end up, upping the ante of it. But again, it's still kind of going pretty slow. But what would you give it?
Yeah, there's some really cool stuff going on. I like some of the mysteries, and I'm not quite sure how much of my desire to know what's behind the mysteries is that me reacting to good writing or just too slow
not
writing.
Knowing it, and you need it, yeah.
Yeah, there are some clunky bits, like what is going on with that arm coming through time? Is that real? What's the weird way it's being written in flashbacks, but not flashbacks? It's just a little bit clunkier. I think some of the mechanics are getting in the way of the storytelling just a little bit. But I like the way it looks. I like that it looks different from every other Marvel book in the entire world. I think that's fun. And yeah, I want to see what happens next. I want to see Glasses back. I want to know who the hell this Shadow guy is and how he's controlling and who he can control and who he can't. I want to know more. So that's mostly a good thing. Just kind of a slower burn than I would like. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
I'm a 7 as well. I'm a 7. I think that we gave the last issue a 6. So we're back up to a 7. Still, again, I understand why people complain, but here we are. We're at issue 4. and I am enjoying it. I ended up, when the review copies came in that we end up being fortunate to get, I did read this first. I ended up wanting to see what was going on, maybe hoping for a little bit more. But when I get it, it is something that I'm interested in enough that it's the first book from Marvel that I will read when it comes out. So that's something as well. So hopefully, people that enjoy it keep enjoying it, and maybe it'll be able to turn some people on eventually.
Hey, all you weirdos, if you like comic book shows, podcasts, videos, please check the description of this video where you can see links to all of our podcast shows, websites, all of that. And if you want to help us out for everything that we do, you can click on that Patreon link in the upper left-hand corner and check out our Patreon, where you can go right now and get a 7-day free trial to see all the stuff that we do, shows that are Marvel, DC, indie, manga, and even more. So check all that out, and I'll talk to you all later.
Weird science is the revolution.